Let us start by defining what is stress. Stress is a dynamic condition in which an individual is confronted with an opportunity, constraint, or demand related to what he or she desires and for which the outcome is perceived to be both uncertain and important. More typically, stress is associated with constraints and demands. The former prevents an individual from doing what he or she desires, while the latter refers to the loss of something desired. The word stress is derived from the Latin word stringer, which means to draw tight. Now, what causes stress? Number one, mostly external and outside our control, like rapid obsolescence of skills, uncongenial work environment, political and economic factors, etc. Number two, stress generating events and situations in life, partly controllable and partly not, like death of a family member, close relative, wedding, retirement, loss of job, etc. Number three, mostly internal and by and large within our control. Now these are classified into strong negative emotions, the 5 A's of anger, ambition, anxiety, apprehension, and arrogance. Materialistic worldview, including a hedonistic culture that promotes crass consumerism and is sustained by some powerful unwholesome emotions like selfishness, greed, grabbing mentality, envy, egocentricity, etc. Living an impure, illegal, and unethical life ruled by the senses. For example, having extramarital relationship and being a victim of lust and passion. Engaged in shady, corrupt deals and being a victim of easy money, etc. Personality composition and makeup, and interplay of duality that is a fact of life and human existence. Now, once we have understood the causes of stress, let us come to in terms with the consequences of stress. There is almost a unanimous view that there are 4 components of the consequences of stress. These are: number 1, physiological, blood pressure problems related to the heart, indigestion, insomnia, etc. These are termed nowadays as lifestyle diseases. Number 2, emotional, anxiety, anger, depression, fear, which you call as phobias, etc. Number 3, behavioral, which means overdependence, argumentativeness, disturbed work life schedule, etc. And number 4, cognitive, adverse effects on mental health functions such as reasoning, thinking, concentration, and memory, and incapability in decision making. Ancient Indian literature does not talk about stress itself. Some of the terms used are Vishad, Klesha, and Dukh. Klesha refers to the stressor aspect. Our ancient literature does talk of Pritap, which refers to 3 kinds or rather sources of distress and miseries, Dukha Traya, in human life. Mainly Adhibhautika, due to beings, that is wild animals, reptiles, and cruel humans. Adhidaivika, due to acts of God, that is natural calamities which are ordinarily beyond human control. Adhyatvika, relating to one's own body and mind, that is physical and mental illness. Out of the 3, those in the second group are ipso facto outside our control. The first group may be avoided if we are careful enough, and the third are by and large within our control. As can be observed, these are very similar to the causes of stress as already discussed. Now, what our scriptures say about the methods of stress prevention? It says that there should be effective management of the 5 A's. We need to develop a spirit of progressive renunciation. And there is a theory of karma which says about the law of cause and effect. And finally, about the conscious efforts towards developing a healthy personality. Since we have already talked about managing anger, let us try to see what it means. The origin of anger is desire unfulfilled. Anger bursts are the result of frustrations and insecurities emanating from the same. What results is aggression against inanimate objects like furniture, glassware, etc., or against animate beings like parents, friends, relatives, etc., and aggression against self like suicide. Anger could be both a cause and an effect of stress. There are two methods for dealing with anger. The modern, which is the Western approach, it says accept and express, and the classical or the Eastern approach, which says deny and reject. There is almost complete unanimity among the psychologists that the classical approach is valid. Now we talk something about the Dwandic theory of stress. It is a contribution from the Gita which says that stress arises from the universal phenomena of the constant interplay of dualities or opposites or contraries in the fabric of life of our existence. Both the outer or the physical world, example night and day or hot and cold, and the inner psychological domain, example pleasure and pain or success and failure. The Gita suggests two alternative approaches to deal with dvanda or dualities. Samatva, that is treating the two as equal, and nidvandva, that is transcending the dualities. The first approach suits the bhakta and is called the bhakti yoga, while the second is for the jnani and is called the jnana yoga. The first approach is relatively easier. Let us now see two verses from the Gita which reflects the samatva and the nidvandva approaches. Let us wind up by talking about a few guidelines on how to manage stress. It is a fact that stress is a reality of modern life. There is no escape from it. Our objectives should be how to, number one, increase the threshold level between challenges and stress. Number two, prevent ourselves from becoming stressful. And number three, effectively cope with stress so that we can soon revert back to the stress-free state. Practical steps needed to be taken to attain these objectives. A few of these can be: number one, control anger by all means. Number two, exercise regularly. Number three, have good food habits. Number four, work efficiently but avoid competition with others. Number 5, don't be a workaholic. Number 6, look for satsang, the company of wise and good people. Number 7, remember the theory of karma. And finally, number 8, be content with whatever you have.